All right, hey guys, here we are back for a guide, and this is one we're going to need a long iron for. So there's very few that happens in all these tours. So let's talk a little bit about that. I'm going to put Goliath down here, but I need to put something above it, so I'm going to create room. So Goliath, and we'll need. I should have pulled this up before I got here. What I was thinking. It's because I've been doing so many woods. So Goliath, I'm going to need backspin wise, what is that, a 5 or 6? Goliath 6 to cover myself. No, that's not right. It's the wrong club. Goliath 5 to cover myself. So that's going to be the minimum, and B52, I'd recommend a 6. You can get away with 5 most of the time, but I'm going to write 6 down. And it's definitely going to have higher preference than Goliath. So it's definitely a better club. Next best is going to be Backbone, but it's not going to be as good because you can't cover yourself distance-wise. So with the Backbone, we're going to need at least a 9. And the biggest reason is distance as to why we're going to need a 9. And similarly with Saturn, we're going to run into the same problem. You can get away with a 9, but highly not recommended. And the biggest reason is distance-wise. So let's just put, I can put Grizzly in here because technically you can. I mean, I know nobody uses Grizzly. It's kind of comical to see this on here. However, you can do it, and there's no reason that you can't. So if you were rolling with it in your bag, even accidentally, you're still okay with Grizzly 8. And what was the other one I said? Oh, Tsunami's also a possibility. No reason you can't use it. So a 1. I could actually move that up the priority list, to be honest with you. So let's see what the power is. 127 right out of the gate. Psh, that's going way up the list. So Tsunami, I would even put Tsunami 1 above Backbone. Like that's how high, important that could be. You don't really need Ball Guide. Well, let me switch that because that's a little bit misleading. You do need you need 2 bounces. So that's kind of the first point that I actually start to roll with Tsunami would be once it has 2 bounces, which is Tsunami 3. So you can pretty much use any of those clubs. It really doesn't matter. I listed the order of preference, B52 6 or above, Goliath 5, then Tsunami, then Backbone, then Saturn. This Saturn is supposed to be a 9. Not that it's important because you shouldn't be using it. If it's down that far down the priority list, you do not even want it in your bag. Trust me on this. So let's take a look. Sidewind, I like to go right around 3.5 is basically what I like to use. And in terms of the shot that I like to play, I like to land right here. And I like the second bounce to bounce here, third bounce, run out towards the hole. There's no backstop here, so you do have to worry about it running down. So you definitely want to have, that backspin. And that's where this is. And so into the headwind, we can lower this. We can go to 3. There's times that I'll even go to 2.75. That's kind of the lowest that I'll cap it no matter what, no matter how high the wind gets. I'd rather, come up short. And I know with 2.75, at least I can, sometimes I might have to go lower than that. However, I don't want to risk it to where it runs down the hill. Alternatively here, you're going to see that I'm going to use a little bit closer to 4 in the tailwind situation, and here I can go even 4.25 in the full tailwind situation. So there's that. Let's start to talk about, here's the side, here's the headwind, here's the tailwind. So for the side wind case, I use max plus 20% for my adjustment. So it doesn't matter what club I pick, B52, 8 miles per hour, plus 20%. I'm going to go 11.4 rings. Alternatively, additionally to that, we need to offset the ball guide. So that's not going to account for any offset. So I'll still offset at least like a grid or two towards the left and then move those rings. It doesn't matter what club I'm using. I can switch to any of these and it'll just, kind of switch to, any of these. Here's the Grizzly's actually 1-to-1. So it doesn't matter. I said we don't want to be using Saturn, but that's, how you make the switch. So there you can see, is the ring adjustment for a Power 3 ball. And this is what we'll use for a headwind here. We're going to add on and do more adjustment than this. So this is going to be at least, I'd say 30% with the potential to be as much as maybe plus 40% in certain situations. So I've actually had some really, really tough ones that I was actually, fortunate to be able to pull off. But one of the reasons is, having the B52. But let's take a look at this real quick because it gets pretty out of control. So with a 13.6 mile per hour wind into a headwind, it's 22 and a half rings. So how many guys are going 22 and a half rings? So, you can pick up some pretty easy wins on this hole by getting some headwinds because most guys underplay it. So, and we're looking at the headwind case, looking a lot closer down to the 2.75 value, especially once it gets up that high, to that high of a wind. And as I mentioned, it's almost kind of an instant win when we get, because almost nobody adds on enough and actually goes, that many rings. And, that's what it requires to hit the shot. So, or it's, it's in the ballpark. So with the tailwind, I'm also going to go right around max plus 20%, pretty much spot on. Depends on how big it gets. If it gets really large, I'm going to have to reduce this. I might have to go maybe plus 15%, plus 10. But this has to be a very, very large wind for this to happen. And the reason that it happens is because once I get to very close to min club and actually set on min club for a long iron, it doesn't carry. It doesn't end up carrying back full, because it starts kind of underplaying the wind. So for this hole specifically, there could be a large enough wind where going max plus 20 is going to actually bite you. But it has to get very large for that to happen. Alternatively, I can stick with the max plus 20, or say a 10 mile per hour, I can probably go to plus 10, plus 15. And, if it gets even higher than 10, say 12 miles per hour, and I have to really start to touch that min club, you might have to go down to only adjusting plus 10% extra to kind of account for that. So good luck with this hole. It's very straightforward. This is one of my favorites to play. Super easy. So good luck.